Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have another major update regarding March Madness. I've got all of the updated conference tournament brackets, including every team that has already punched their ticket to the field of 64. The first thing we are looking at, there's a Lenardi thing, there's this site. This is the first thing I'm going to be showing because I didn't talk about this yesterday. Quickly going through all the seeds. This is fully updated. It updates after every night. So you can see Purdue, Houston, UConn. We all know they're going to be the top three overall seeds. They're all going to be one seeds. They have the final one seed as North Carolina. Now, that will be solved with the conference tournaments. North Carolina, Tennessee, and wow, they have Arizona as a 3 seed. So that's not, this is an analytical based prediction. Arizona certainly we would expect would be a 2 seed, possibly have a chance at being a 1 seed, but I guess in terms of most deserving, because of the conference that they play in, they're a little bit lower. But it's very likely the final 1 seed is North Carolina, Tennessee, or Arizona. You also have Marquette, Iowa State, and now Creighton possibly on the 2 line. I think Creighton's going to move back to being a 3, with Arizona being a 2 seed. You also do have Baylor, Duke, Kansas on the 3 line. So Kansas possibly moving up a little bit to the 3 line. Illinois, Kentucky, South Carolina, and Auburn. So South Carolina, we've kind of thought of them as a 5, maybe a 6. Well, here they're up to a 4. And that's an SEC 4 line right there with Kentucky, South Carolina, Auburn. No Alabama in sight on the 4 line, at least in these analytical rankings. You've got BYU, Nevada. Nevada's been playing well in the second half of the year. Utah State, my goodness, the Mountain West taking over the 5 line. And Gonzaga. All West Coast schools on the 5 line. Very interesting seeding when it comes to these analytical rankings, with Alabama, Texas Tech, Clemson, and Dayton on the 6 line. I think Alabama needs to be higher than a 6 seed. Those other teams, I really wouldn't dispute. Maybe moving Dayton down slightly. You do have Texas, Wisconsin, St. Mary's, Boise State on the 7 line. San Diego State, Northwestern, Washington State, and Nebraska sitting as 8 seeds, along with Oklahoma, Florida. The high potential of Florida possibly being involved in an 8v9 game and then immediately facing a 1 seed in the second round. They are on the 9 line along with TCU and Virginia. That strikes me as a lot of average on the 8 and 9 lines outside of Florida. A lot of average. Also maybe San Diego State. On the 10 line, it is Colorado State, Seton Hall, Colorado, and Pittsburgh. The 11 line, Michigan State in the tournament, Florida Atlantic, also Drake. So, wow, they don't have Indiana State in, but I do think, personally, Indiana State will be in this tournament. The 12 line, James Madison, Grand Canyon, and Princeton. The 13 seeds, McNeese, they are in their conference championship game tonight, and they're 16.5-point favorites. Samford, they're already in. Charleston, we're going to talk about all of this, but Vermont, and then the 14-line UC Irvine, La Tech, Morehead State, Colgate. Colgate back up to a 14 seed. The 15-line, Oakland, Toledo, Montana, and Quinnipiac. And then the 16-line would be South Dakota State and Longwood. Looking at the last 4 teams in, St. John's, Texas A&M, Wake Forest, and Villanova right now on the bubble. I think it's pretty much consensus both St. John's and Texas A&M are in they would be in the first 4 right now. Wake Forest, it depends on which bracket you look at. Same thing with Villanova. And then the teams potentially in, I don't see Butler getting in this tournament. I'm shocked that they're the first team out in this. Indiana State, I think, will be in probably right now over a team like Villanova or maybe Texas A&M. Providence, I think, is clearly out right now. Kansas State is out. Iowa needs multiple wins. Mississippi State is, I would say, directly on the bubble, actually in the tournament. Yeah, Mississippi State is in the tournament according to most brackets. Syracuse is way out, and New Mexico, they need to at least, they're going to beat Air Force, but they might need to win another game after beating Air Force, because I know they got a nice draw in the Mountain West tournament. Moving on to an updated look via Joe Lenardi. So he does have Tennessee as the final 1 seed. I would agree with that right now. Purdue, Tennessee, UConn, and Houston. The 2 seeds listed: Marquette, Arizona, North Carolina, and Creighton. So Creighton maybe does end up a 2 seed with Iowa State losing that end of the season game, they're down to a 3 seed. Baylor, Kentucky up to a 3 seed along with Duke. And then the 4 seeds, Auburn, Illinois, Kansas, Alabama. The 4 seeds are so strong this year. If I were to look at these teams, all of these 16 teams, who is the most likely to get upset? I'm not in love with Creighton. I'm not in love with Baylor, but I think Baylor will win a game just because of their recent history, their good performances in the tournament. But I'm not in love with Creighton, Baylor, or Iowa State. Kentucky's defense is also very suspect. Those would be the teams I would look at possibly losing early. You could also argue maybe Kansas. Kansas just has really good talent, so it wouldn't surprise me if Kansas made an Elite Eight run, especially with the narrative that, oh, this year Kansas isn't very good. And then, of course, they come out and probably go to the Final Four, just because that's normally how it works. Last 4 byes, Michigan State. I think Michigan State is in for sure. Seton Hall, TCU, Mississippi State. So, yeah, I would expect Mississippi State to be in. If they lose their first game in the SEC tournament, it could be interesting. Last 4 teams in, these teams would all be in the first 4. Virginia, Colorado, St. John's. They do also have Indiana State. I would be very, very annoyed if Indiana State had to play in the first 4 because I would like to pick Indiana State to go on a Cinderella run. I don't know if I can necessarily do that if they're having to be bogged down with that first 4 game to even get into the field of 64. First 4 out, it's A&M, New Mexico, Wake Forest, Villanova. And then the next 4 out, Pittsburgh, Iowa, Providence, and Memphis. And then the multi-bid conferences, of no surprise, Big 12 with 9 bids, SEC at 7, Big 10 gets 6, Big East with 5, Mountain West also with 5, Mountain West with more than the ACC and the Pac-12, but it's been one of those years for sure. Moving on to the current state of not every conference tournament, all of the conference tournaments that are either in the semifinals or they have a winner. So you can see Vermont, kind of surprising, a close game with New Hampshire. They won by 7, but I would expect Vermont to beat UMass of Lowell in their conference championship game. That game's not taking place until Saturday, though. Expect Vermont to win that and possibly go into the tournament as a 13 seed, possible upset alert for a 4 seed, but I don't know. The 4 seeds are very strong in this tournament. Congratulations are in order to Stenson University. As I said yesterday, they will be very likely a 16 seed, and I hope they're not in a play-in game. I hope they just make the tournament, make the field of 64, but they are in. They had a major upset win there. Moving on to the Big Sky, so this game will be taking place tonight. It is Montana State versus Montana, the greatest rivalry in college basketball history. 11:30 prime time. Are you kidding me? Wow. The 5 seed versus the 3 seed. Could you imagine if Sacramento State would have been in it? Oh, dude, Sacramento State, the 10 seed, they came within 3 points. And then Idaho State gets crushed by Montana. I would expect Montana to be to win this league personally. We'll see. Moving on to the Big South, congratulations are in order to the number 5 seed Longwood University for a massive win. Wow, that's going to help their analytics. 85-59 over UNC Asheville, and they will be in the tournament as a very low seed, 15 or a 16 seed. You do have Charleston. Congratulations are in order to the College of Charleston. Very sad situation. I wanted Stony Brook to win. I tweeted it out last night. Stony Brook out of nowhere, the 7 seed. And unfortunately, game went to overtime. It looked like Stony Brook was going to win late in the first half, but the College of Charleston, the number 1 seed, gets it done. They will be entering the tournament as a lower 13 or 14 seed. The Horizon League, I did want Milwaukee to win, I'm not going to lie. I actually wanted Cleveland State to win. They almost beat Oakland in the semifinal game. But congratulations are in order to Oakland University for their win as the number 1 seed. And they will enter the tournament. Maybe an upset type team out of the Horizon. They've had a solid year, Oakland has. I remember Oakland almost beat Ohio State really early in the year. Impressive Horizon League team. It was a good year for the Horizon League, very competitive. Missouri Valley, we all know the situation. Drake is in, very likely as an 11 seed. And then you do have Indiana State. I think will also make it, but they might be involved in a first 4 game. If Indiana State doesn't make it, there's going to be a lot of outrage. I get it. I think they're going to be in. Moving on to the Northeast Tournament, Congratulations are in store for Wagner University. You know what this reminds me of? You guys remember the Wagner group with Russia? Yeah, this is very, very interesting. So, Wagner, really good defensive team, extremely elite defensive team, the 6th seed, beats Merrimack. And I'm kind of glad there was this victim mentality for Merrimack, like, oh, they won it last year, but they couldn't, compete in the tournament. And now you just see Wagner come out of nowhere and say, this is a dose of reality. We're taking the tournament. That's very impressive. So Wagner is going to be in the NCAA tournament this year. And then you do have Morehead State, which is really what we expected. I know Little Rock was the 1 seed, but the analytics told us that Morehead State was better than both Tennessee Martin and Little Rock, and that they very likely were going to win the Ohio Valley tournament. That's exactly what happened. They easily dispatched of Little Rock. They won by 14 points in a lower scoring game. That happened a while ago, but Morehead State is in. You do also have the Patriot League. The final there is happening tonight. It is Colgate taking on Lehigh. I believe Colgate must have some type of injury. So Colgate facing a Lehigh team that is oh, by the way, Wagner is only 16 and 15, I think. They're 1 game over 500. The Wagner Seahawks, yeah, and they're in the tournament. But Lehigh is another team that has a really bad record, but for whatever reason, Colgate is only 6.5-point favorites, when analytically it would suggest they should be around 12-point favorites. So I'm wondering if there's an injury to Colgate, and maybe Lehigh can pull off a crazy upset, but that is the final. I'll be honest, I am rooting for Lehigh to win this game. I just want to see different teams in the tournament, but I do respect Colgate and their dynasty run there in the Patriot League. Moving on to the Southern, you do have Samford. Congratulations are in order to them. Business-like wins. They easily ran through this tournament. We all expected it, and I know a lot of people will be picking them possibly to upset a higher seed in round 1. They beat East Tennessee State, McNeese State, and Nichols. McNeese coming into this game tonight 16.5-point favorites. Nichols trying to pull off the impossible after the upset win over Texas A&M Corpus Christi in overtime. Can they do it? McNeese easily dispatched of Lamar, winning by 19, and everyone thinks McNeese is going to pull off a crazy upset. We'll see. Congratulations are in order to South Dakota State University. I was rooting for Denver. I was rooting for the 7 seed, but South Dakota State will be in the tournament very likely as a 16 seed. Congratulations are in order to James Madison. We all knew this. This is the issue where Appalachian State very likely now, they're not going to make the tournament. We thought Appalachian State, they might pull off a big-time upset, but maybe now James Madison can pull off that upset. They are 31-3. Very impressive. Congratulations are in order to St. Mary's. We already knew St. Mary's was going to make the tournament, but they did beat Gonzaga 69-60. That's a big win for St. Mary's. Gonzaga still clearly in the tournament, by the way. No worries for them. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this update. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.